If there is something I can do to make a change, make a difference, I want to do it. Trying to, stop our colleagues using single-use plastics as much as we can. And people say, I'm just one person. I can't, it's not going to make an impact. No, if we all would have adapted the same mindset, we would have been, making way more progress. No, I felt like there is more in me. Like I can push more. Like, what is it? So I kept on pushing that ceiling, right? And then I realized, what ceiling? There isn't one. From the first day, I've realized, events are fun. I can really see myself doing it for a long time. When you create an event, it's like you're able to create this magical reality. That's how I really started my career in F&B. When we go through all of those different emotions and you're having your, lows, it's important to understand how you feel and to reconnect to yourself, because that's the time when we grow. You really need to let the process take place rather than trying to control the process.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Many Firsts, the podcast where we explore the power of first-time experiences and share transformative and inspirational moments in our lives. I'm your host, Regula Fischer, and I'm super excited to be here today live in the studio with Iryna. Hello, Iryna.
Hi. Hello. Thanks so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, super nice to have you. I'll briefly say a few things about your background, just minimally, and then we will explore more about your life and your firsts. Sure. You bring over 15 years of leadership experience in the hospitality and foods industries. You led, for example, the catering and hospitality services for Google's Asia Pacific headquarters, if I understood that correctly. And you are now the owner of Scoop Wholefoods in the UAE. Mm-hmm. So, what took you originally on that journey of food and hospitality? It seems to have been with you for a while.
Yes, it has been. So, originally I'm from Belarus, and growing up, in Eastern Europe, normally your parents are the one who make a decision in terms of your future career. And my dad was obsessed with the idea that I'm going to make an exceptional lawyer. So I started with the law school and I was really pushing. Wasn't my thing at all. Eventually, I decided to go to London and took a gap year just to study English. Yeah. Never went back to Belarus, stayed in London. While in London, one of the best way to learn is meeting different people, surrounding yourself with native speakers, but also London is so multicultural. And I've had lots of friends through my school. And one of my friends recommended saying, part-time job, she's just doing this hostess work or like waitressing work. And I thought, okay, wasn't too sure. At first I kind of thought, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do it, just simply because I felt quite insecure because my English wasn't great at the time. And then fast forward a couple of weeks, I thought, okay, I'm going to give it a go. That's how I really started my career in F&B, because from the first day I've realized, events are fun. I can really see myself doing it for a long time. And then also, as I progressed, and kind of went to different events, the role started to change. I became team leader pretty quickly. I've realized how I was fascinated with the industry and also how passionate I was about food. Like growing up back home, my grandma was a great cook and she also grew all of her vegetables in her summer garden. And one of my summer tasks was actually help grandma to grow all the, the carrots and tomatoes and potatoes and the berries. As a child, I did not like that. That was like, oh God, I have to go there. Why do my parents do this to me? But, looking back at it now, I realize how phenomenal that experience was, because it really taught me, what good food tastes like, right? So that's kind of how it started. But then I stayed in London, stayed within F&B industry, and worked my way up.
And I'm curious because you said you liked events. So you're basically the one making it an exceptional, beautiful experience for others, right? What is it that makes you like being on that side and, not the one, for example, receiving your services?
Oh, I like receiving too. You get used to good stuff, But it's funny because I feel like when you work in the industry, you become so, you become very, I guess, critical of yourself. and other people as well, right? You pay attention to detail. You want to make sure your event is perfect. But then when you go to another restaurant, you kind of have that expectation that you build up within yourself. So every time you go somewhere, you kind of like, rather than relaxing and enjoying yourself, you're thinking what you could have done differently, or taking inspiration, thinking, okay, I'm going to do that in my next event. Oh, that's a great idea. I'm going to do this. So it takes time to really kind of disconnect and help yourself to be in the moment and enjoy. But coming back to answer your question, one of the things I was absolutely in love with is, when you create an event, it's like you're able to create this magical reality. You create the situation or occasion for people that they get excited about, they look forward to. You have a gala that you're attending. You're already, our life, not always it's all fun and games, right? There is things happen along the way, and not always we are very happy, we're upset. So when you give people an opportunity to have something that they look forward to and get excited about, that's what I really loved. And then having customers coming in and seeing their face for the first time, to see the setup and the production in the room, you just get such a great charge of that pure, beautiful joy emotion. So that was always my big trigger. And then when the event would come to an end, I felt like a whiz drone almost, I would be like, oh, I'm so sad that it's all finished now, but that's life and events. You finish, you tear down, and then you reset for the next one.
Yeah, it's basically setting up something beautiful and then tearing it down, right?
Yeah, within a couple of hours, the setup and the amount of work you have to put into it before it actually happens. It's huge. Some events you would plan for a year, right? If it involves a lot of different program pieces. But and I guess that was one of the things that really helped me to be very good with change. Like our life changed so much. Yeah. So I think during my career in events and F&B, that would really help to train that muscle within myself to just kind of being able to move on to the next thing,
It's interesting what you're saying, because it sounds a bit to me like there's a dopamine hit, right? And then there's fall, which could also end up in depression or so. But usually we would naturally cycle out of that again, right? But you would probably have had a lot of such cycles and found a way to navigate that. Are there any specific tools or practices that help you with that navigation?
At the time in the event, so prior to my latest venture, probably not so much. Things were happening so fast, and I was also a little bit younger, so didn't necessarily always have time for the mindful moments, right? You just kind of keep going. Now that I have a few years behind me, I can look back and see, this is where this gene must have came from.
And now you would basically, the business you're running now is a bit different with Scoop Wholefoods, but you would now have such practices that you consciously use.
Absolutely. So with Scoop Wholefoods, so I used to live in Singapore, and my business partner, Victoria, we both used to live in Singapore, and we met at work, and we both were very passionate about sustainability, good food, and trying to, stop our colleagues using single-use plastics as much as we can. And it's really important at least to me, it's really important to make sure that if there is something I can do to make a change, make a difference, I want to do it. And it drives me nuts when people say, I'm just one person, I can't, it's not going to make an impact. No, if we all would have adapted the same mindset, we would have been, making way more progress. But anyways, Victoria and I, we kind of bonded over our similar beliefs, and she's also from Belarus. And at that time, Scoop Wholefoods opened up in Singapore. They opened their first retail store there.
Coming in from
Australia. The brand is Australian. Yes, they've been around over a decade. There is 10 stores in Australia, 7 now in Singapore, 2 in the UK, and we're the first one here in Dubai.
So it's like a franchise.
Yes, that's right. Okay. So when I probably should have started with that.
It's okay.
So when they opened up Scoop, we just fell in love with the brand. Such a beautiful produce, no GMO, no pesticides, no artificial color and flavor in the store. It's a bold concept, so there is no single-use plastics in the store, and just genuine, really great products. The farmers, suppliers that we could really trust. And yeah, so we absolutely loved it. We used to scoop all the time. But then when COVID hit, we both ended up living in Singapore. I moved with my family to Dubai, and Victoria ended up in Berlin until probably about a year and a half ago. We got on a call and Victoria said, well, what do you miss about Singapore? I said, Singapore, what I miss about Singapore, actually Scoop Wholefoods is one of the things I really miss the most, because I've seen some of my friends, over the time, but there isn't a Scoop in Dubai. I've spent a year and a half looking for something remotely similar here, but I wasn't able to find it. And then Victoria said, well, what about Dubai? What do you miss in Dubai? Or how do you find Dubai? And I said, well, Dubai is incredible. I love this place. I'm so happy that we moved, but there is no Scoop here. So I really miss Scoop. And then she goes, I've emailed them a while ago and actually they franchise. And I kind of looked at her and I went, they franchise? She goes, do you think we should open one? I was like, absolutely, we are opening one. Let's do it. And that conversation took place, probably about a year and a half ago now. So, and then, a lot of work happened in between, and I was basically trying to figure it out. Now, my background is F&B, and I've done various things during my career, but it's still for the first time I was doing something in UAE, So, of course, within that process, there is lots of learnings, lots of things don't go to plan. And there is lots of moments of, oh God, how are we going to figure it out? You have massive setbacks. And during that time, that's how I actually found Mind Valley. Because I really felt emotionally depleted just because there was so much happening all at once. And many things were very much out of our control. And for me, that was also very hard to not be able to control. Yes. And, and also, as I mentioned before, growing up in Eastern Europe, there is this whole segment of your parents make lots of decisions for you, but also there is this culture around you have to come first, you have to achieve. Like if it's not a gold medal, it doesn't count. So you kind of get conditioned into that, sense of control because you want to control your environment. And then I found myself in a place where I wasn't able to control anything, and the way or coping mechanism I found was through Mind Valley and meditation and some of the hypnosis, which was extremely helpful.
So interesting what you're saying. Because you could have given up, right? You could have thrown in the towel and say like, but then that maybe the other mentality that you got may have stopped you. I don't know. And in addition to the tools you discovered.
For sure. Or like resilience, I think definitely, a sprinkle of that helped along the way, for sure.
And like a new dimension, you mentioned what resilience you built before, right? Like seeing things torn down again after being built with so much dedication and care.
Constant change, right? Yeah. So for sure, it's interesting. Sometimes, I guess we all find ourselves in the situations where you think, why is this happening to me? That's like the worst day. Like, when we go through the motion of being extremely upset and not able to see the reason why it's really happening, until we really zoom out, to have that maturity of zooming out or learned how to zoom out, easier said than done. But looking back on our lives, we go, oh, I'm so glad that happened. Learned a lot there. Okay, now I understand why that situation was handy at the time.
Yeah, and resilience for me also includes an aspect of starting to trust that, right? That it happens.
Absolutely.
We are, like, I like to use the image of the storm, right? Yes, the storm is coming, but I'm standing strong.
Yeah, exactly. We're just going to get through it.
On, almost.
That's right.
And, but thank you for sharing that. I know that such transitions, like internally, also include almost like an identity change, right?
For sure.
So would you say you're a different Iryna now from
For sure. Massive jump leap happened. And coming back to the whole control piece, over the years, I knew I've had not a problem, not necessarily like in a micromanaging kind of problem, but I've handled it well. But within me, there was a lot of internal fights, right? Of being able to let go and letting people do their thing. And I've trained myself over the years how to make it seem as if I'm letting go. But what was happening on the inside was complete opposite. And I didn't quite realize how bad it was until, last year when we were working hard on setting up Scoop. And truly in those moments when I couldn't control anything, that's when I started losing my mind, because it was that hard for me. And through the meditation and lots of, different releases, and I did a couple of courses that really helped me to navigate that time. And now looking back at 2024, all my friends are like, you did amazing. You guys opened Scoop Wholefoods. Well done. And it's all about the store. And absolutely, I'm super happy and grateful. And we love our store and we're planning to open many more. But looking back at what was the best thing, right, essentially of 2024, is really me being able to let go, and really find myself in a place when things change and there's things that I can't control. I mean, even the whole idea of wanting to control is no longer there, right? So it's very much now a mode of like, okay, what's the universe is sending? Oh, we're going to do this now. Okay, sure. Let's switch gears. And in the past, I was able to do it. But again, with internal fight, now there is not even no triggers, no internal fights, nothing. It just comes natural. Like, okay, I'm curious. I wonder what is this about,
Yeah, sounds like very much like a many first lifestyle, right? First after first, and 100. Welcoming it, and not going into resistance, but going with the energy that's coming. Yeah,
absolutely. And I found as well, like even in the past, I read courses and I bought all these books, and I knew I had something that I need to work on, but it's regardless of what I've done, I guess it just wasn't the right time. At least for me, for my personal case, it's almost like at some points I might have even pushed myself too hard trying to fix it, like kind of in that drive and like, okay, I'm just going to do it. And it's not necessarily how it happens. So you really need to let the process take place rather than trying to control the process.
Yeah, it's so beautiful what you're saying. And at the same time, you obviously then changed. I mean, you yourself changed, your working environment changed, and what you're working in building. Did you also notice that, around the people that you're surrounded with? I mean, obviously, I guess you've been building a new team, so there's new people there. But were there shifts as well, or did you hear from outside where some people are sometimes suddenly surprised by how you dealt with something?
Yes, for sure. I think definitely one of those people who are very close to me is my husband, and he has seen a huge change, or like probably more seen me evolving over the last year. It's always the people who are the closest to us. I guess they get more of the real you, right?
Yes.
And my friends as well, but probably not as much. I think at home, because I share a lot with my husband. He's my big support system at home. And he've noticed even the way I spoke about things, or like some situations that happened and how I didn't react to it. And I just, if anything, was excited of how, it must be for this reason or for that reason. I'm excited to find out. Let's see how it's going to unfold. When in the past, he would see me being really affected by some of the news.
And he was fine with that, and there was nothing like, oh wow, she's different now.
Yeah,
he could.
Yes, absolutely. So he's very much admires, I guess, the process and the journey for me, and he's very excited to see this part rather than just being focused on the business and kind of been excited just for that reason, right?
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I'm wondering, you mentioned micromanaging, and already before I wanted to ask you how you created engagement in the team. It seems to me like in your career, you originally were one that just out of being driven internally, you decided you wanted to make a great client experience. When you were, for example, let's say the waitress also, you took it, you really took ownership, right, of of your job and your role. And then as you became a leader of teams, how would you have dealt with that? Obviously you were a bit of a different person at that time, but if you saw that there was a lack of engagement, and how has that been compared to building Scoop now and the team there?
Great question. Lack of engagement, what I always try to understand is, of course, there is business side of things. You need to manage a team. But in order for me to manage the person, I really like to connect to them to understand, what do they want? Why are they here? Like, what makes them click? You know, sometimes people end up in the wrong roles.
Yeah.
They're in wrong careers. They don't realize it themselves. But in conversations, you figure things out, or they might be just really, really hating certain aspect of their role, and they understand that they need to do a little bit of it. But if they had more of those tasks that they really, excel at, you see a complete change. But not always we find the time to actually connect to people that we work with on that level. So throughout my career, I've had many different teams across London and Singapore, big number teams. And the big thing for me was always really find a way to connect to each one of them, to understand what motivates them, what doesn't, right? How do they feel?
Yeah, every business is a people business in the end,
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely. And it's so important, like empathy is so important. And not always we have enough of it or see enough of it.
And the way I understand it, you were employed and moved out of employment with a company that I think many people would aspire to work for, right? Like Google, went into entrepreneurship after already having a few years, as you said, to quote you, behind, and also being a mom, right? So how are you bringing it all together? And how did you find the courage, I guess it took, to step into a whole new venture?
Yes. I think from my childhood, I've always used to say to my mum, oh, I can do more. Oh, I have this idea. Oh, I feel like I should be doing more, or I will get promoted, in my career. And a few months in, I'm like, okay, I think I can do more. Actually, at first I'm like, oh, okay, this is new. I figured it out, and I kind of like navigated, and I'm like, no, I feel like there is more in me. Like I can push more. Like, what is it? So I kept on pushing that ceiling, right? And then I realized, what ceiling? There isn't one. There isn't one, like corporate life was great. It taught me so many things along the way. And leaving and moving to Dubai was very hard. I spent 7 years like across London and Singapore with very similar team. Became a very comfortable environment as well, right? Like I knew what I was doing. I also really loved my team. We achieved some amazing things in Singapore. And when we made a decision to move, and it was simply because of COVID, so we were moving as a family, it was hard, and when I arrived here, I kind of went, ooh, so what is next for me? I went from having a senior role and big team and being a mom to now just being a mom. And I had this whole feeling of I wasn't doing enough, as if just being mom is not okay, right? It's again, my own perceptions, which I'm totally comfortable with. And then, but it did take me about probably 5 months to go through, I wouldn't say depression, but I had my low moments. And then I bounced back from it thinking really around how, now it's a beautiful time to be able to spend time with my son, because my maternity was 3 months. I didn't have the time to be there present as much as I wanted to at the time. And when we moved to Dubai, once I kind of figured out me, because it always starts with you first, I was then able to really focus on my son and building that connection with him, which I'm very grateful for. Now he's 5.5.
5.5.
Yeah, he's a big man. I'm saying 5.5 because I'm thinking if he heard me saying 5, he would totally correct me. Every month counts.
Yeah, very true, actually. Yeah, very accurate. And again, it seems like the zooming out, right? Seeing the bigger picture.
Exactly. But that's the thing, sometimes you wish you were able to do it straight away, but it doesn't always work like that. And why should it, right? Like I feel like when we go through all of those different emotions and you're having your, lows, it's important to understand how you feel and to reconnect to yourself, because that's the time when we grow. That's the time when we kind of get ready for the next leap, right?
Yeah, and it's nice to also go through that process like consciously and allow the time. Yeah, it takes
to heal and reconnect for sure.
And I also think we cannot just constantly bring on the next. Now we need these cycles of pausing or slowing down.
But also, I think how just culturally, I'm not sure if that's the right word, allowing that. Because if you leave a corporate job, and if you don't have on your CV, like instant start somewhere else, the perception is like, oh, something went wrong. Oh, I'm not sure what this person, and I'm stereotyping, right? I'm not sure not everyone is like that, but at least back in the days, I felt like that's definitely was the case.
It has to be a CV. I mean, what does it say in the end, right? It can be,
ChatGPT, right? Yes. Phenomenal things. I was like, now, you're playing with ChatGPT, and I'm like, God, what was I writing before? You know?
I sometimes think I would probably, just like to get to know the person. And then let them
connect
tell
with
me, because
them.
Anyway, you wouldn't know what they bring until you work with them, really.
Absolutely.
Right? And I think a lot of things can be learned as long as people are motivated and have their heart in what we want to do.
For sure. And they're excited and they feel like this is the next chapter. This is their next adventure. They feel so much more committed to it as well. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So how did you choose Dubai, and why didn't you go back to London, for example?
Great question. So it was mainly around my husband's work. He got a great job opportunity. And then we also feel like once an expat, always an expat. And in Singapore is a beautiful country. We loved Singapore. It's great food, great people, super safe. Dubai, very similar to Singapore. Great people, great food, super safe.
Yeah.
It's not as green, but depends what area you're in, and there was desert, which is beautiful. It's like, it's a different adventure in our family chapter, but safety was really a big part of it. Because my husband is from Canada. Yeah. Canada is pretty good option as well. But then the weather, summer is great, but what happens to the rest of the year? And we spend all this time in Singapore, loving life and the sunshine. Those little things start playing the part. And I was excited also to go to a different country and just check it out. While we have the energy and we had the opportunity, why not? Like moving back home, we always can do that. That's like the safe option, right?
That's true. Yeah. And so now, how is it going with Scoop?
Scoop is going great. We've opened. Thank you very much. Thank you. One of the best things has been our customers. It's such a pleasure. Honestly, no words will ever describe how great it feels when a customer comes in and they're excited about the store, whether they're trying it for the first time, and they come with all of that energy of, wow, this is so amazing, And then people trying the product, coming back and telling us how they felt and how much they enjoying it, and they love this and they want to try this one, or they want to get more of the same one. It's been really great because it makes me feel those emotions, how I felt back in Singapore when I used to go to Scoop. And I remember that pure joy of like, this place is great, And it's so important as well to have a retail store that you can trust, right? Because my husband would not go shopping with me, like food shopping, because I spend too long reading labels, and I'm there, sort of squatting down, reading the labels from the jar all the way at the bottom, and I start, with Google trying to translate what some of those ingredients mean, and it takes time.
It does.
So with Scoop, and that's what I loved about them in Singapore. Of course, once I did my initial assessment, I was very comfortable because I had, realized their ethos and what they're trying to do, and the products that they offer are really, really great. So it's nice to be able to go and not having to worry about what does the label say.
So that's a label. One question I have is like with regards to sustainability, as the food gets shipped, right? Or flown, I don't know.
No, we don't use air freight. It's sea freight.
So it is then not food that goes bad very quickly. It's not necessarily.
So that's a great question. Food waste. There's a lot of food waste in the food industry.
Oh yeah, that's one of my.
It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking.
It is.
I've seen it. from the back end. But the good news, I've also seen it evolve over the years. Let's say when I started 15 years ago, and where is it now? It's very different. The culinary teams, chefs, front of house, been very much kind of having this mindful approach to how they build their menus, how they display food on the buffets, how they can minimize the food waste, and how they minimize food waste in the kitchen. So people generally became a lot more thoughtful over the years, which is great. Now coming back to Scoop, so we offer dry, think of us like a dry pantry products. So we have honey, we have grains, granolas, tea, chocolate. So all of those products have a very long shelf life.
Yeah, understand.
So that's the I guess, simpler way of reducing the food waste in a way.
And the sustainability with having things shipped from elsewhere. I mean, I know we're in this global world, but this happens. But I think that's also a topic that we have, right, as a society to resolve in the coming. For sure.
And, what's really important as well, I think air freight versus sea freight.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely.
So sea freight is the best option that we have at the moment. But also it comes to the product that you're bringing, making sure that you've optimized in that container that you're bringing in. So you then, not having to kind of go back and forth with them, right? And when it comes to then product arriving to the store, in the store, we don't use any single-use plastics. We buy in bulk, we sell in bulk. Customers are very much encouraged to bring their own containers and refill and reuse those, so they can get jars from us and do the same.
I see. I would really love to come to the store. I need to do that. I need to be back soon. Is there a first that you have on your mind that you would like to create in the near future for yourself, your family, clients, the world, all of it?
A first. That's a good question. Thought about of many past firsts that I've created.
Oh, you can also share those.
Yeah. No, actually, it's a good question. I like questions that make you think of something new. I think for me, particularly here in this part of the world now, I would love to create many more first moments for our customers, starting on the journey of well-being, looking into their nutrition, what food do they consume? Where does it come from? And kind of create that general awareness. Because I feel like probably in Europe, people are on a different journey, in terms of that, or like in Australia as well, they're all very kind of health conscious, eco-conscious. And I see a big opportunity here. So yeah, well, they'll be the one.
Very relevant work. Thank you so much for doing it and for being here today.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
It was such a pleasure. Thanks, Iryna.
Can't wait to see you in the store.
Yeah, me neither. Will you be there?
That's going to be your first.
Yes, exactly. My first in the Scoop. I'm so curious now. And are you in the store sometimes?
Yeah, most of the time. Yes,
okay.
Yeah. I love chatting to customers.
That's on the agenda for the next visit. I should get into planning.
Brilliant.
Thank you
very much.
Looking
forward to it. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. If you liked today's episode, it would mean the world to us if you like it and share it with anyone that could need a boost in courage. We would also like to hear from you. What are your reflections? How do you approach sustainability? How do you buy food? And what is your experience with it? Share it with us in the comments. And we'll see you next first time. Until then, much love and courage. Ciao.